I'm going to show you the first match of 2018 WCS Leipzig semifinals, where Neeb played versus Showtime on Blackpink map. They'll be playing in 2018 WCS Leipzig tournament. This tournament is the first of 4 events of the 2018 circuit. It has a group stage, a second group stage, third group stage. The first group stage has 64 players. The second group stage has 32 players. The third group stage has 16 players. The playoffs the third group stage has 16 players from the second group stage, 16 players from qualifiers that make up 8 groups of 4 players each. Top 2 players of each group advance to the playoffs. So in playoffs, 16 players fight in a single elimination bracket. And we're going to take a look at Neeb versus Showtime semifinals, and they obviously moved through all of these groups right here. That's group stage 3. There are more. Here's the map here's the match I'm going to show you. Neeb versus Showtime. It's going to be Blackpink map. Here you can learn a little bit more about distribution, region, country. You can stop the video and take a look at these a little bit closer. Here's the map statistics right here. Now the tournament 2018 Leipzig is part of a Starcraft World Championship series. It's a series of events organized by or incorporated with Blizzard Entertainment. So this is like a super tournament where only the champions of other tournaments compete for the ultimate prize and the ultimate status as the best StarCraft 2 player in time. It's pretty much Korea versus the world. And here you can see a table where all the tournaments are broken down. This is the tournament we're currently looking at. Here you can see the winners and the runner-up, the winner and the runner-up. If you want to watch these castings, you can go to AndYouLeftTheGame YouTube channel. You can find it by typing AndYouLeftTheGame without blank space into search bar. You'll come up with 2 choices. If for any reason AndYouLeftTheGame with blank space shows up, click on it. Go to featured channels and click on AndYouLeftTheGame without blank space, and it will take you to the channel. Then go to playlists and choose the game you want to watch or the match you want to see. If for any case you get AndYouLeftTheGame without blank space, click on it and you'll be taken straight away into the channel. Here's a simple breakdown of StarCraft World Championship Series Global Finals. In 2018, total pricing is over $2 million. It's broken down in between the circuits, challengers, Korean GSL leagues and super tournaments, global IEM Katowice. As you can see, $250,000. That's a super major event, all-star event, GSL versus the world, and the final 8 best players from Korea versus 8 best players from the world. It says from the circuit, but that's pretty much due to the fact that circuit consists of Leipzig, Austin, Valencia, and Montreal. But in other words, this is pretty much 8 players from the world versus 8 players from Korea. Now that we know about the tournament, and how this tournament is part of a grander scheme, let's move on to the players. The first player is Neeb, a favorite of the tournament. He is from USA. He made over $290,000 playing StarCraft 2. His legacy dates back many years, and here you can see his achievements. He won many tournaments. Most of the tournaments that he won is in the first place or second, and he is one of the players that accumulated hundreds of thousands of dollars playing StarCraft 2. Here's his picture right there. His opponent is Showtime. Showtime is playing Protoss, and he made over $180,000 playing StarCraft 2. Here you can find a lot more information about it. You can stop the video and read about him, or go to this website and read about him. Here you can see the breakdown of his tournaments and achievements, winnings, and the results. Furthermore, here you can see his pictures and familiarize with the way he looks like. Now let's take a look at the match from Showtime's perspective. It's semifinals, best of 5, Neeb versus Showtime, Showtime player camera, Blackpink map. And now we are in the game. Here we see at first Showtime queuing up or hotkeying his locations. He hotkeys the locations he plans to take during the game and opens up with the pylon. I suspect that this pylon is opened up in here so that he could wall himself off. We still don't know if he's going to cheese and attack his opponent suddenly, or will be the very specific army play. Now it seems that he's going for a gas, a pretty standard game. Normally these kind of very early gas openings are for early upgrades or for a specific play, or the player is focused on a full economy play and simply assumes that he will need a lot of gas if he wants to build an army that is gas specific, so he better get those geysers really early on. Why it's early on? It's early on because 2 gas geysers consume 6 workers, and at the beginning of the game 6 workers is certainly a lot of workers, and if you wish to build yourself 6 additional workers, you won't be building a couple of additional troops, or you won't be building those super early buildings out there that would otherwise defend you. For example, defensive photon cannons wouldn't be built and you wouldn't be able to defend yourself against the cheese. Now it looks like Showtime is sending a probe to scout into opponent's base. These scouts are very useful for you to learn if your opponent is going for a super cheese play. So by looking at that, you may see that your opponent is not building any gateways and is building like 2 stargates. So you know that Phoenix's oracles are incoming, so you better build yourself a counter for that. So build yourself a photon cannon close to your mineral field, get yourself a couple of stalkers there to that mineral field, or build stargates yourself if you think that your ability to control airplanes will be much better than your opponents. Now as you can see here, Showtime build in the Neeb second base a pylon, and this way denying Neeb's ability to build second base much quicker. After that, Neeb destroys the pylon and they both start to build troops. It looks like Showtime decided to build himself a sentry, and sentries are used mostly to create wall-offs with their ability. Now he believes that walling off some of those zealots, if that's the case, would be the right thing to do. So a force field would be created somewhere on ramp, and this would just simply block entry of zealots or any other units into Showtime's base for the time being, while everybody on the other side shoot. Now, as you can see here, it looks like Showtime decided to create himself an illusion. An illusion lasts for a very short time, and they're pretty much used to either fool your opponent to attack the illusion instead of real units, or create these kind of illusions like Phoenix so that they could move into opponent's base and scout. Now, by scouting, he learned that Neeb is playing Phoenix just as Showtime does. However, it seems that these players decided to go for a very similar probe count, a very similar army composition, so they're both playing a Phoenix play, which is very common for Protoss players due to the fact that air units for the Protoss are available quite easily early on, and those air units are truly devastating when they move on to opponent's mineral lines, or in this case Phoenixes that can lift units. So if you, for example, have a force that consists of 5 Phoenixes, you at any point in time can lift your 5 opponent units, such as Immortals for example, and your opponent just wouldn't have his vanguard of Immortals for a period of time, while the rest of your troops are either destroying the rest of the forests that are left without the Immortals, or the Immortals themselves, who cannot attack you while they are being lifted by the Phoenixes. And this is truly important at the beginning of the game, where all ground units are of paramount importance. And it looks like both of these players rely on this exact strategy here, and they both build a large number of Phoenixes. Both have 6 Phoenixes, both have very similar number of Stalkers, and they even increase the Phoenix count by quite a bit here. It looks like at this point, 5 minutes for the Showtime decides to expand into the third base by creating his first pylon here. Now, pylons are created so that the Protoss player could warp in units in the pylon's field, and in this way allowing for quick reinforcements. Here we have a massive Phoenix off, absolutely incredible, and it looks like there was no real winner here because the numbers were so similar. In any case, Showtime moves on further. He rebuilds his Phoenixes, and guess what? Looks like Neeb is attacking with a much more powerful force here. The Phoenixes fight off, and it looks like Neeb's Phoenixes will be killed off, which means that Showtime will be able to lift Stalkers, as you can see, reducing Neeb's army by large margin. All those probes are taking out additional Stalkers, and the Phoenixes are lifting troops once again further, while Showtime's force, supported by probes, which is so incredible, these probes are doing so much damage, has defeated Neeb's attack. Neeb's attack was much more potent, many times potent. Neeb would have won 100%. This was a sort of a really well calculated play from Neeb. However, these Phoenixes and surprisingly large number of probes that added additional damage has been just too much. You see, Neeb's troops started to target the probes instead of targeting the Stalkers, and while the probes are being hit, these Stalkers can almost one-shot snipe away Neeb's troops, and obviously Neeb's army was reduced by probably 50% in its firepower, with all those probes and phoenixes lifting and attacking Neeb's troops. So this was a super high level play. So this is exactly how everybody should play. Simply in these kind of defensive situations, use your probes to distract your opponent while the rest of your troops kill off very valuable troops that your opponent is attacking you with. Now it seems that surprisingly enough, Neeb is choosing to play solely Stalker, and Showtime decides to include Immortals. Now, as you can already notice, with those phoenixes lift approximately 5 stalkers, and the Immortals on the ground are not being hindered, then the Immortals will just eradicate all those stalkers created by Neeb, and will simply have the advantage. As you can see, Neeb focused on whooping 24 stalker count here. This is a truly significant force. It looks like it's a sort of actually a cheesy play where only stalkers are being built who can attack air and ground units, and Neeb thinks that he can overpower Showtime's army with this massive number of stalkers. However, little does he know that Immortals and Phoenixes who will lift those stalkers up are going to be too devastating. Look at that, Neeb even increases his power with all those adepts who have just moved in the lines. As you can see, the sentries out here have got those Neebs trapped there for a second. So for a few seconds there, most of Neeb's army wasn't even able to engage. He had to blink his army out, and look at the stalker count. It has been significantly reduced, while Showtime is increasing his immortal count and builds additional zealots. These two armies are different to the core, and it seems that now Neeb wanted to blink into Showtime's base. However, that turned out to be a complete disaster. Neeb lost even more troops. He denied Showtime's ability to build a fort base. However, his stalkers were simply unable to do anything here, and Neeb decides to GG out. So this composition right here of Immortals, Phoenixes, Stalkers, Sentries, for example, who were able, using their force field right here to block army movements of Neeb, were just too much for Neeb, and he just simply decided to GG out. Surprisingly, he left the game while he still had bases running, so at all times he was able to transition, but he probably believed in Showtime's counterattack and decided to GG out. So as you can see, with Showtime's skill in this army composition that Showtime has used, Stalkers only, even controlled by one of the best Protoss player out there, cannot do much if the opponent plays his sentries, his phoenixes extremely well. 1-0, Showtime is ahead.